Good morning YouTube, my name's Jo and this is my channel Joey Sewy, and today I'm going to tell you all about elbow patches. I have been doing some refashioning videos, there's part 1 and part 2, and alongside that a friend asked me to repair some cashmere jumpers that she had, so we decided to do some elbow patches. I've got some video of exactly what I've done and how I've done it, so I'm going to cut to that now and I'll talk you through it. Here you can see me running a running stitch around the edge of one of the elbow patches so that I can gather it in, because in order to press in the edge, a curved edge, evenly, you need to gather it in first. It's almost impossible to do that by hand. And once you have it, you draw them up like a little shower cap. Then you take your patch, oval shape, to the iron and you press those edges. Next, what I did was I put some double-sided fusible, paper-backed fusible onto some white cotton. I drew around my ovals and then I cut out those ovals. So these ovals I intended, and I did, iron them onto the inside of the cardigan to actually fix the holes and stabilise them. And because I'd drawn around the outside of my external bit, I then trimmed them down a bit. There you can see some of the actual damage to the cashmere, and I'm working on the inside now. I'm peeling the paper off the back of the cotton, so what's left is the white cotton and a fusible thing showing, and then I put a press cloth over the top and used a fairly hot iron, not moving it around, just literally pressing it, and then just check the edge. That's how I did the process. In the end there are 3 jumpers. They're not mine, as I've said, so I don't know how well they're going to fit me, but I will show you each of them. The first one, that's the elbow patch. There you go. And I've sewn each of these on with hand stitching, so I'm just going to show you the hand stitching. So can you see on there, tiny little prick stitches, that's what they're called. And then on the reverse, it's nowhere near as pretty. And when I do hand stitching, if there is a reverse, actually it's probably the best one, but that's the reverse. So there are long stitches on one side and teeny tiny little prick stitches of, I'd say those are 1 millimetre or less on the good side. And in each of these, I don't know how and we don't know why, but she had put a hole in one elbow, the same elbow of every one. I forget whether it was the left or right now, and of course I've covered them up. So that's that elbow patch on that one. I'm actually not sure this one is cashmere, but it's a cosy jumper. So the second one looks like that. Now let's see if we can, I did a different kind of hand stitch on each one just to break up the monotony of doing it. So on this one, can you see, it is just, I guess they're running stitches, but they are horizontal running stitches. So there they are. And then on the reverse, again, it's not going to be the prettiest picture you've ever seen, but I'll show you. That's the reverse. So not brilliantly easy to see. There we go, light adjusted. There's just like a diagonal stroke between, so each horizontal, diagonal underneath, horizontal, diagonal underneath, and so on. So that's the second. And then the third one, here it is. This could do with a press actually, but that's the third one. This is a cashmere jumper again. Now this was supposed to be a variation on a blanket stitch, but I basically followed the instructions wrong and it ended up being it looks like the picture, but it isn't formed. It's if you looked and you knew how the picture was supposed to be done, it isn't formed in the same way. So basically, and the back of this one is really messy. We've got crosses and then lines all the way around. This is a little bit of linen that was a scrap of mine. The other two pieces were cottons that she had found and brought for herself. So the back of this is really not a thing of beauty. Look at that. Yeah, but it gets the job done. So that's how I've done the elbow patches. I'll put this on my arm. There you go. So there are loads of different ways you can do an elbow patch. You can choose to try and make it as subtle as possible, in which case you wouldn't have chosen different colours, would you? You could, you don't have to do the hand stitching. I found it, if you are retrospectively doing an elbow patch, it is much easier to hand stitch it on because you've already got the tube of the sleeve, and getting that onto most machines, especially in these cases where they're thin, slender cardigans, you're not going to get that onto your free arm of your sewing machine without stretching it. And if you're sewing it unstretched, when you take it off your sewing machine, of course, it's going to be stretched out of shape. So for that reason, as you saw in my initial bit of video, I used fusible glue, fusible stuff on the back to stick onto the back to stabilise the actual damage, and then I have used hand stitching. You could use fusible and this could be a no-sew solution, that is definitely possible, but it wouldn't wash brilliantly because as good as the fusible stuff is, it's not really meant to hold anything permanently in place that's going to get brushed and rubbed and moved and manipulated. Before too long, if you do that, it will start coming loose at the edges. It's great for holding things in place temporarily that you're then going to sew around, and it's also great if you're doing something decorative where you don't want to stitch it and you just basically want to glue it down. Then it's fantastic for that sort of solution. So there you go. 3 different ways to do elbow patches. I hope you've enjoyed that video, and I'll be back along really soon with something else. Bye for now.